Hello, this is Darren Hodgkinson and I'm going to show you today, as part of my Forest Schools Level 3 training programme, how to maintain, store and basically look after the main tools that you'll be using. So the first thing that I would mention is that when you are putting tools down in the woodland, if you are using them, it's always better to not put them on the ground. Okay, put them on something like a protective bit of material or something along those lines. So I'm using a sort of weed protector, as you can see just there, and there are sort of some of the tools that are laid out. Okay, you'll also notice that I've got some socks just there, and I've also got here a whetstone. Okay, and that's graded on one side and the other. Okay, so one side is more coarse and the other side is less coarse. Okay, and we'll be seeing why that's important in a moment. So it's important that before we use our pieces of equipment, we check them, and after we use those pieces of equipment as well, we clean them, because any bits of debris or whatever can cause rust and can cause problems, blunt tools, and as I've said on previous occasions, a blunt tool isn't necessarily a safe tool. So I'm going to be showing you how to sort of look after these tools for sort of each one. So we're going to start with the lopper. So basically we need to make sure that it's cleaned at the end. Okay, and to do that I'm going to be using just an old sock, and basically just clean the edges. And if you're thinking of sharpening it, it's a really good idea to clean beforehand, because otherwise you're sharpening bits of dirt and you're not necessarily producing the impact that you want to have. So probably the best way to hold a lopper is like this. Okay, so that's a relatively sturdy way to hold it, or rather like this, relatively sturdy way to hold it. And then what we're doing is we're just doing one side really of the lopper, and I'm going to use my right hand here, and basically you just do one side, a little bit like a pair of scissors. And what we're trying to really encourage is the fact that people will wipe away. Okay, so we'll do that, and then we just check it sharp. You might want to use it on the coarse end and then the smooth end as well. This is not necessarily made of forged iron like some other things are, and therefore you might want the additional smoothness. What I've also done is, for my stainless steel items, I've put a little bit of oil on my whetstone just to sort of help with the lubrication. Now I've got my other sock. This is sort of been soaking this old pair of running socks, which are quite good for this, because they don't necessarily bobble, because otherwise it would sort of cause problems. A little bit of oil over the top, just to add as an additional piece of protection. Okay, so that is the lopper, and like I say, we will store that on a piece of, I've used weed protector here, and what I've also made sure I've got is a safe indoor place to store those tools, all of them in boxes, shelves, and I sign each one out and sign it back in at the end, just to make sure that we've got sort of safety. At the moment I'm the only person using them, but you know, in the future when more people might use it, then that's important, and that's all in the handbook. So I'm going to go on to the next one, which is the bow saw, which is just here. So as you can see, it's already sort of been in use, and this one hasn't come with sheath. I'm just awaiting some more with a sheath. It had a very, very flimsy one which sort of fallen off, so really ideally it should be inside the sheath. But what you can do is you can take this off by loosening an end, and you would always place it. I would even do this with the sheath, to be perfectly honest with you, just for additional safety, with the sort of teeth on the inside. Okay, so that way there's just an additional level of safety there, especially when I might have that in storage or something along those lines. Okay, so again, I want to put this onto a protective area, because that can cause damage, and with this I'd sort of make sure I sharpen it, make sure I clean it in relatively the same way. Okay, so you might want to use wire wool here, but again, I'm just using just getting off any bits of dirt as I go through, and again, going away from ourselves. That's something that we try to sort of encourage, and then again, you'd let the whetstone do the work. I've already sort of sharpened this, so yeah, this is the one that we'd put down. Usually you'd put them down with the blade facing away from you to the side of you, okay, but this is just for sort of presentation purposes for the time being. So the next one is the bill hook. Okay, so again, this comes with a sheath, and usually the sheath should be on top of that just to give additional protection. This is made with forged iron, and so therefore what we usually do is we'll give it a clean first of all, because we don't want to get any dust in there, and then what we'll do is we will sharpen it using the coarse side, and we'll go away from ourselves. And then what you usually do with all of these is you might want to test them on a bit of wood to see how sharp they are. Okay, and then what you'd do again is you would finish that off with some lubrication, some oil. I'm using sort of Singer oil, but I mean there's a number of different oils that you can use. And then, to be honest with you, a lot of them are sort of pretty similar. This is my sheath knife. I'll take that out, and as you can see, this is made of stainless steel. So again, I would use the more smooth side of this, and I'll go along with that. I'll just make sure beforehand that I've cleaned it, that there's no dust on there. And then again, once I've finished, I'd want to put oil on it on either side, and then that way it can go into storage. Okay, always make sure that the sheath is on it, because obviously that's the safest thing to do. And then finally, I've got my tooth saw, which is here. You can see the sort of relatively large teeth on there. Again, this is sort of relatively industrial in terms of its use, and it can be quite dangerous. So always make sure that it's closed with the protection on. Even if you're just putting it down for a moment, that's what I would do. I'd put that put down by the side of me on a protective area or protective mat. Pupils will be, or learners will be given one of those, and they'll sort of see it as a matter of course to do that. And again, this is very, very similar. So this one is made of stainless steel as well, and I would first of all clean it to make sure that there's no bits of debris in there, there's no bits of wood or anything along those lines. Then I would use the smoother side of my whetstone, and I would again brush it away from myself. I'd let the whetstone do the work, and then finally I'd get my the oiled rag, and I'd make sure that it was lubricated. Then I'd put it back into storage, having signed it off. Okay, and I'd always make sure that the safety catch was on. Okay, so that's just a little bit of a work through about how we look after and maintain different tools. All of those would be locked up, all of those would be stored in a cool, dry place, and that's really important. If you've been out in the rain or something like that, then you might need to take additional care to ensure that those tools, particularly iron ones, are dry, simply because the last thing you want is rust, because that can cause all sorts of dangers and problems. Okay, thank you.